everything is little temporary here, right? Our whole journey is temporary here. So why regret? Why not give it a shot? In the age of this video on demand and OTT, I mean, who is going to spend time reading a book? The comforts of this salary hitting every month into your bank account is a very difficult thing to give up. You need to add value to in activities that you do. It doesn't matter whether it's a small activity or a large activity or a very impactful activity. Value addition can happen in mundane activities.
Hello, Satyajit sir. A very warm welcome to you on our podcast. It's called the BigSmall Talk, and we've created this space so that we can have industry leaders from different spaces come and share their personal journeys on how they made it big. And we're extremely excited to have you here with us on board today.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's definitely a very interesting platform. If people like me can come and speak to youngsters, right? And if we can at least make some contribution through this to the student community and, people out there, I think it will be a very fantastic gesture. So all the best with your initiative. And, I hope I will be able to add some value to your whole work.
Thank you so much, sir. I love your perspective on our podcast, and thank you so much for your appreciation on the same. So before we start, can I talk to you about something else?
Absolutely.
I see the book by Amish Sita in the background.
Oh yeah, this one.
Yes, sir. Sir, are you an Amish fan? Because I really love Amish Tripathi's books.
Yeah, I have actually read a few of his fiction. I think his description of the situation, the characters is so good. Very few fiction authors write that way. And to be honest, I am not much of a fiction reader. Okay, in this whole bookshelf, this little one, there is only non-fiction books. I'm more of a non-fiction person, and I myself write in non-fiction genre, so not much of it. But Amish has got great command. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing.
In fact, especially his description about places, he actually makes a place very imaginable, easily imaginable for a reader.
Absolutely.
So that
no,
was
this one is the Sita. Okay. Book 2. In fact, I didn't pick up the book 1. I picked up the book 2, and I was very amazed. This is my first read of Amish actually, but it is very good. The way he has narrated Sita, right? Our impression of Sita is that of Durdarshan, that kind of thing.
exactly.
But the way he has narrated as a warrior princess, it's just amazing. It's very good.
Yes, sir. Also, Ram and Ravan, they're all, and Sita, they are all multilinear books. So you can start anytime because they're all in the same timeline and
yes,
lives of different people.
Yes, and what helps is because we know the story, the overarching story, so it becomes, it's definitely a very good read that way. But what I honestly liked is the way he characterized Sita.
Yes, because it's very different.
I have seen Sita in the Durdarshan times, right? So there is a very feminine impression of Sita that generally people hold. But this one is more, more appropriate in a sense how a princess should be. So it's very nice.
Also a self-dependent woman.
Yes, absolutely. Very in tune with what's happening these days.
Also, you've had a very amazing corporate journey, the industry journey, which is almost going to complete 2 decades in some time. So could you just take our viewers, our audience through how your professional journey has been?
Absolutely. So I started informally in the year 2002. So in some ways, it's already 2 decades. Okay. But yes, formally, my professional journey started in the year 2004. So I started as a techie. I joined Infosys and spent some time there. Then I moved to TCS. In TCS, I was very fortunate to get opportunity where I got to see the business side of things. And, once I saw that side of things, other than technology, there was this sudden itch in me to do an MBA. So I went ahead and again, fortunately, I was able to be part of IIM Lucknow, where I completed my MBA. And then I joined Deloitte Consulting. I was in the US India offices, so I used to distribute time in India and in the US. Then I moved to KPMG, KPMG to Geo to Novartis. So one role led to the other, one job led to the other, and one company led to the other. So this has been the professional journey. When I so in April 2021, actually not April 2021, in May 2021, I quit my job in the corporate, and I decided to turn myself into an author. I thought that there is something in me which is really, fighting with myself to get out and be published. So I wrote a book, and then I became a published author. And then after that, I also have my own company. It's called Focused Minds, where I'm focused on igniting minds in the career development, mentorship, coaching, all these kinds of areas, specifically focused on career. So this has been the journey so far, and very many interesting things have happened in between, especially the last 1 year has been, on very, very fast track. So I will talk more about it as we will progress in the podcast.
Sure, sir. I mean, I'm sure an entrepreneurship space gives you a lot of opportunity to handle different types of situation and pressures, and also explore what potentials or interests you might have. So,
right.
Yes, let's explore that in the podcast now. But sir, now that you've mentioned MBA and entrepreneurship and corporate, I'm intrigued to ask, so for a person doing an MBA or an MBA aspirant who's eyeing to do or get into the space of entrepreneurship, what do you recommend? Do you actually recommend the person to be in the corporate for a couple of years, or just dive into the entrepreneurship area?
Very interesting question, Tripti. So, see, both the approaches have their own pros and cons. Okay, so let me just quickly touch upon them. So, when you are, a fresher and you want to be an entrepreneur, so there is this huge hunger. Okay, and then there is a tremendous amount of energy, enthusiasm. All of it is there, and the most important part, you are still not very exposed to the perks available in a corporate job. So that makes your mind more tuned towards trying out something. But it has a disadvantage also, because sometimes people lack that experience. Coming from an academic world, in an academic world, what happens? Everybody gets the same question paper, right? But life doesn't give you the same question paper. So real world works very differently. So that experience will not be there. So you want to make mistakes, more mistakes, learn from them and correct. What happens in a corporate job, if you do a corporate job and then choose to become an entrepreneur, first and foremost, the advantage is you get a close peek at how the companies are run, right? You understand, various aspects of a company, and then you also develop some sort of expertise, which will help you, do your entrepreneurship in a more planned way. But the biggest negative point of doing a job and becoming an entrepreneur is you get an addiction, the biggest addiction of mankind, which is called salary. Okay, the comforts of this salary hitting every month into your bank account is a very difficult thing to give up. It's an addiction. Okay, now having said this, frankly speaking, to me it doesn't matter which one chooses. What matters to me is the intent. Okay, so if a fresher or an experienced guy is doing a startup because what everybody else is doing it, then that's a wrong intention. Okay, if a person, again a fresher or an experienced person, just wants to do a startup because he wants to play the valuation game, he has seen people raise money and then make an exit, he wants to do that way, that's again a wrong intention. You should do a startup irrespective of your age, your experience, provided you have a right proposal, you have a right proposition, and you really feel that you can create a value proposition for your customers, for your stakeholders. Only then you should delve into this entrepreneurship. See, very nice. If I were to summarize it, right? See, people say corporate jobs are rat race. Okay, they're like you're running in a race. But believe me, whether it is entrepreneurship or is it corporate job, it is a race in both the place. Okay, You have to decide which race you want to run, and more importantly, you have to decide how fast you want to run. If you can figure this out, I think it is immaterial whether you are a fresher or you are a experienced guy taking the plunge. It really doesn't matter.
So that you really summed it up pretty well, and even I am very clear about the two perspectives you've given to my question. But then delving a little deeper into it, I see that
Mhm.
you've taken the second route. You've worked in the corporate for a couple of years, and then you've moved out of it to start your own venture. So, sir, I'm sure in the long run in the corporate that you've had, you also faced a lot of different situations and gained a lot as a person. So, I want to know what were the lessons that you have learned from the corporate?
So, I have spent about close to 2 decades, and as you mentioned, I have, you might have seen, I have worked in some of the big MNCs and large Indian conglomerates, right? My experience has been very rich, and I'm very thankful for that. What I have learned over a period of time is that corporate jobs, or for that matter, any job, right? It unfolds in a ladder pattern. Okay, so the first step is when you are like fresher, you are joining this job. You are like an apprentice. You need to learn. You need to sharpen your skill, and then some years passes, and then you become like a manager. You have a team to manage, get the deliverables done. Then you become a manager. You spend some more time, and then finally you make a jump into a leadership role where you are a leader within the organization. Lot of us, including me, when we started, right, we felt this is like a continuous upward journey. It is not. It is a ladder step where you have to jump from one step to the other. At every step, there is a certain expectation expected out of you as a working professional. So you need to be very clear what is expected out of me when I'm an apprentice, what is expected out of me when I am a master craftsman, and what is expected out of me when I am a leader. So not only knowing that, you also have to understand and accept that this change from one level to the other is not going to be automatic. You have to really work hard for it. And in the process, people generally, what I have seen, they engage so much on the outcomes that they actually lose out on the fun that a corporate job can provide. It can be fulfilling, it can be engaging. That particular point of view goes out, and it becomes very stressful on a day-to-day basis. So this is something what I have learned, and this is also one of the premise of my book.
So, sir, I'll definitely keep that learning in my mind as I start my corporate journey soon. So, sir, you spoke about the way a person moves in the corporate from being an apprentice to a master and then a leader. So, I'm sure in the journey that you've had, there were many obstacles, there were projects from where you learned a lot. Share some examples of those obstacles or problems, if there are any, and what were the specific learnings or skills you developed because of those.
See, when you work in corporates, right? So either you will be working in client-facing roles, or you will be working in roles which are more internal focused, right? So when you are working in an internal focused kind of roles, the biggest challenge is the proposals you make to the senior management. You would work very hard, you would create that business plan, you would create that profitability model, business model, etc., etc., and then you submit it for approval. After a long hard journey, this proposal gets rejected. So there is a lot of disappointment which happens when you're working with internal focused work. When you're working with clients, some of the clients are very difficult to handle. Okay, so the slightest of slip from your end, and they are like all over you. So there is a lot of skill that you need to understand how to navigate your way when you are dealing with that kind of client. So I remember, I can talk about one project where we were making a presentation to the client who was on a client visit to our office. And somehow the team, so this is an old client, so somehow the team felt that you know what, it's okay, we can just show them anything and then we're okay, because they were banking on the relationship that they knew the client before. But last minute, the client changed and a new sponsor came. So this guy was new. And when we showed him, stuff that was already shown to them some time back, he really got wild. He said, "You are just showing me things that you have already shown." So it took a lot of, skill, a lot of expertise to really calm him down and then, present something which was what he was looking for. So such, situations slip out of hand very, very quickly. So, that's what I mean. Basically, based on the situation, you have to act, and it comes slowly to you as you mature in your, journey.
Got it, sir. Got it. So thank you so much for giving this very wholesome view of your corporate journey and how it's been, how it's shaped you. So moving forward, I want to understand about your entrepreneur journey. So what was it that motivated you to start something of your own?
So see, I don't have anything against a corporate job. Okay, I'm not one of those guys who was like fed up with corporate job and he wanted to start something of my own. I, in fact, firmly believe that a corporate job can provide immense opportunity and can be very fulfilling both personally and financially. Okay, if you play the game right. Otherwise, you'll burn out. So there is no point. So that was not definitely my case. So what made me switch into an entrepreneur journey, right? So back in April 2021, right, I lost my mom to COVID. She had COVID and she passed away. And I too had COVID, the severe one. I had fungus, bacteria, whatnot. And I was very sick. So it is, the combination of these events which led me relook at life in a very different way. I thought that, I always had some ideas about, starting something of my own, but it never happened because I was very happy with the way my career was going on. But this very incident, right, it sort of, gave me a perspective that everything is little, temporary here, right? Our whole journey is temporary here. So why regret? Why not give it a shot? That is where I thought that, okay, let me, jump into this. And the beauty of it is if it doesn't work, I'll figure out something else. So that was the basic idea with which I jumped into the entrepreneurship journey.
Wow, sir, I understand that it must have been a very difficult emotional journey as well.
Absolutely. See, my whole objective now is I want to experience very many things. Okay. And something probably, see, we come from a time, right, when it was mostly, you study well, you get into good colleges, you pass out, you get a good job, and, you happily retire at the end of whatever number of years. Even at our times, this startup ecosystem was not buzzing enough. So I'm not blaming the environment. I'm saying this is how, I was conditioned. But when this personal event happened, it shook me and I started looking at it from a different perspective. I am more after, how to gain a more fulfilling, more engaging, more enriching experience in life. That is what I'm after right now.
Wow, so that sounds very amazing and exciting to me too.
And interestingly, if I may add, so what am I doing? So the very corporate job, right? I have seen when I look at people struggle in jobs. Okay, they get stressed. They don't know why they are stuck. All these problems I have seen firsthand, which is where when I thought that I'll do something of my own, the immediate idea of, giving back to the corporate sector in this way clicked in my mind. I really want to make a difference to people who are already working, who are stuck. And I also want to make a difference to the student community who are just getting into the corporate jobs. I'll talk about it even more later if the context arrives. Yeah.
On that note, we can have a little more insight about what Focus Mind is about. Can you please elaborate on what your aim? I mean, we have already spoken about what the basic idea was, but then what really is the everyday life and the work that Focus Mind does?
Absolutely. So what Focus Minds is focused on is igniting minds, as I said, right? When I was in the corporate, we used to have interns coming to us and working with us. But many a time, what we found that we have to spend a lot of time bringing them up to the speed of corporate world. Okay, the knowledge levels are very academic. I won't say deficit, I would say it's very academic. And it is like that only. People who do not have work experience, and then let's say they get into business studies, the knowledge will be more academic. So what is lacking is some sort of handholding which will help them get the right conditioning that happens in the corporate world. So this is where I identified my opportunity number one, which is I want to reach out to students when they're in the college, and I want to help them transition into corporate roles, look at their own curriculum in a very different way. So what I do for them, I organize workshops. I go to colleges and I do workshops. Okay. And these workshops are not your standard soft skill workshops. Okay. They are more around how to basically transition into a corporate by bringing your academic knowledge into how the corporate world works. So as a result, what will happen is when the student gets into the corporate world, he is much more confident. For example, in these workshops I talk about networking, right? If you ask anybody, everybody will say, yeah, networking is very important, but what are they doing about it? If you ask them, then there is no answer. Other than LinkedIn, there is nothing that they're doing, right? So these are some of the nuances I touch upon when I do these workshops, right? So I want to make them understand what really is valuable in a corporate world. So this was my opportunity number one. What is the next opportunity? So people are already working in the corporate. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have figured it out. Sometimes they will need coaching, sometimes they will need mentoring, right? All these are not available to these people. If you look at in the market, there are many coaches and all available, but that market is not very well developed. People are still not willing to take help for their careers. They want career advice like stock tips. Okay, are ye stock good hai, is pe laga do paisa. They don't want to really invest in their career. And that is the mind shift that I want to do. I want people to understand that it is okay to take help. In fact, it is better. Why go in circles and then achieve your result 3 years later, when you can do the same thing with the help of a mentor in, let's say, 6 months? That is exactly what I want to do. So this is my opportunity area 2, which is the working professionals. So I'm working with students, I'm working with working professionals also. My objective is to make them the best working professional in terms of their career. Whether they choose entrepreneurship, whether they choose job, it doesn't matter, because my fundamental principles remains valid in both the cases. So this is what I do.
Wow, sir.
So you can call it more like a mission that I want to really bring up. If I can stretch it a little bit up, I want to really bring our young India to a level where the skill levels are very high.
Wow, sir. Especially last part where you put it as a mission. On that note, I have to say that it's a very bold and warm step at the same time when you choose to do something of your own and then
Right.
you make it about the people so that they can do the best that they can.
In fact, it ties back to my point that why should one do a startup? The intent has to be very clear. I'm not saying that I want to do social service, but I want to offer this service so that people can benefit out of it. And I have an intent, and I really feel that there is a value that I create for the student community and for the working professionals.
Great, sir. So, sir, now I know why you actually started a venture of your own and what are those areas you're working on in. But on an everyday basis, now that you've come out of the corporate, there is a lack, there must have been a lack in the lifestyle or the structure of your everyday patterns. Because, in the corporate, you have this thing of fixed work hours, reporting to someone else. So you eventually fall into a pattern. But then
Right.
that gets disrupted when you're in your own venture. So it takes a lot of motivation for any person to stay as enthusiastic in his or her entrepreneurship. So I want to know currently what is that best part or that great part about your work that keeps you motivated to continue with the same rigor as you must have started it with.
Very interesting question. So I'll split it in two parts. Okay. The second part is where I will actually address your question about, what motivates me on a day-to-day basis, right? Let me just first talk about how you rightly mentioned this transition. Okay, honestly speaking, when I was in Novartis, I was in a very busy global role. Okay, my day would typically start. I was working with the Europe team, right? So my day would start my India time and will go all the way till the Europe time. Okay, so I used to work 13-14 hours in that sense. Okay, the same was the story in all my previous corporate jobs. I used to enjoy, and the beauty is I also had work-life balance. So I never cribbed about my job in that sense. Okay, but when I moved into an entrepreneurial life, the first thing I used to do was get up in the morning and think, what will I do today? Okay, that was the amount of time which got freed up. And honestly speaking, because it happened very fast for me, I never really thought, what will I do with that time? So initially, to be very honest, I wasted a lot of time. Okay, I was just enjoying my freedom. There is no boss to report to, there is no deliverables, there is no targets to chase. Okay, so the feeling was awesome. And I started writing my book, and I was like, one page I will write, and then I will see around, and I will see that who is looking at me. Nobody's looking at me, so let me not write. Then I'll go on Netflix, I'll do something. I'd taken all OTT subscriptions at that point of time. Okay, point is, the journey of an entrepreneur is a very lonely journey. You cannot imagine how much it takes every day to really get up and motivate yourself, and then do things, because you do 10 things, out of which 9 will be utter failures. Okay, and one of them will succeed. So I'll give you an example also. So in between, I thought that it will be good for my brand if I do some YouTube videos, some interview tapes, etc., etc. Failed miserably. I mean, some of my videos have got 3 views, probably me, my wife, and maybe my daughter. It has failed till that level, but it has taught me a lot of things. So what I'm trying to tell you is, this journey is an extremely lonely one. You have to keep motivating yourself each and every day about the good things that you like about it, right? And subsequently, we started seeing traction, we started looking at workshops, we started reaching out to people. People connected with us, they've taken our subscription for mentorships, etc., etc. So what makes me tick? So when people come, right, when I interact with them, there is a lot of pain, there is a lot of confusion, there is a lot of blockages that people talk about. And you will be surprised how senior people also have blockages. We tend to think that when you grow senior, your problems will go away. They just morph. They have their own demons to handle. And when you talk to them, and when you counsel them, coach them on different ways, and the results they produce, and they come back and tell you, this is started working for me. When you see a gloomy person in session 1 to a smiley person in session 3, that's the reward. That's what keeps me going every single day. I think it is more about connecting with people, it is more about knowing them and being able to help them, right? That's what makes this whole process very amazing, and it keeps me ticking, actually, to be honest.
So thank you. With the last 3 answers, I think I've got a very wide view of what an entrepreneur needs: the motivation, the basic skills, what your motivations were, and in specific talking about your venture. So thank you so much for those answers. So now you've mentioned your book, which is called Workmanship, and Winning. So can you tell us something more about that?
Yes. So this book also happened during my entrepreneurial journey itself, right? In fact, I quit because my first take on what will I do after I quit was to write a book. Okay. So this book is in the workplace genre, where I'm talking about exactly the 3 levels that I mentioned earlier in the call, right? It talks about you know apprentice phase, master craftsman phase, and then the leadership phase. Why so? Because in my career, right, I have seen very many talented young people joining the workforce, very motivated, very enthusiastic to make a mark, but they suddenly fall through the gap. Because what happens, you are so enthusiastic, you think that it is the corporate job is some Harvard case. It is not. you know it's not a case study, it's a real life. So what happens is, you join the workforce and you miss the promotion, or you miss that hike, or you see your friend getting treated in a better way, and then you lose your sight of the thing. And then as you progress, most of them lose sight of the goal, and then they fall through the crack, which led me to look at the other side. So when I looked at the other side, I saw there are some people, very few people, who are getting the hikes, getting the promotion, getting rewarded, and that too, they also have the very best work life balance. They're with the family, and they're also having the right work life balance. So this made me think that is having a stellar corporate career only a privilege for a few? The answer is definitely no. So what is wrong then? Which is where I started my research. I spoke to people, I spoke to seniors, I spoke to those achievers, and I spoke to the managers of those achievers to understand, what is the signal they're giving. So there were a lot of insights, and I thought that why not, bring this insight in some sort of a structure and framework, so that it can benefit people, not only just youngsters, but people who are already working. They can always reflect, recorrect their course of action. So this more like a tool pack, more like a you know um, compass for the corporate people, this book.
Okay, sir. So I think I've got an answer to what my next question will be already, but then I'll ask it for clarity anyway. So you say that the book is for not just young people, but for people who've already spent a lot of time. It is for the corporate, but then corporate is again a very broad term.
Mhm.
So is there a specific target audience, the corporate, or is it for the whole corporate? So
Mhm.
I
So,
can.
again, a very interesting question. I think what you are probably telling is, there is a marketing area, there is a finance area. How is this book going to be applicable, right? See, the book, or my thought process, whichever way, right? It is basically a industry function agnostic thought process, right? So I will just delve a little bit deeper into it. So when you are studying, right, or when you're working, there is too much focus on skills, you hard skills and soft skills. Okay. But I think there is absolutely no focus on what is known as the professional quotient. It is you, how you engage with your team, how you engage with your client, how you engage with your bosses, the experience that you generate. I'm talking about that is called professional experience. And that professional quotient is independent of where you work, whether you work in the banking industry, whether you work in the manufacturing industry, versus you work in finance function, marketing function, operations function. It is immaterial of that, because I'm not talking about hard skills and soft skills. Those things are more industry agnostic, more industry specific. A certification in banking is useful in banking, it's not useful in marketing. So that's like a hard skill, right? And soft skills is, of course, your communication, etc., etc., time management, etc. But I am talking more about the professional quotient. And exactly this is what differentiates a great career from an average and ordinary career. That is exactly the recipe. If you can figure out what is your PQ and how the PQ changes with time. I mean, as a fresher, you will have a certain PQ. But when you are like a leader, your PQ changes, right? Because the way you will work will also change. So all of this is very, very critical. And this is what my book is trying to preach. I would say preach is not the right word. This is what my book is trying to educate people, sensitize people, that you have to look out for your own PQ. If you won't make your PQ appropriate at your level, then you will see others claiming a better badge in terms of promotions, in terms of hike, etc., etc.
Wow, that is very interesting. I got to know something new today. So thank you for that. I'll definitely try to gain more insight on what professional quotient really means. And so, sir, moving forward, you've shared why you've done what you've done in life, be it your corporate journey, be it your entrepreneur
Mhm.
journey. I want to know what your motivations were to write the book.
Okay, this is also very interesting. So, you keep thinking, but at one point of time, something triggers this, right? So I'll talk about that. So what happens is when we sit with our peers, right? Invariably, after a few minutes, we start cribbing about the job. Okay, the boss is not good, this is not good, this crap work, and all this kind of things we keep saying. Okay, so when I attended or when I was part of those sessions, it felt very natural to crib. Okay, but when I started observing them, I thought that why are people cribbing when the mistake is their own? Okay, which is where I realized that let's try this out with seniors, and then let's try this out with team members. So when you talk to people informally, even if it's your senior, they will open up, they will also crib with you. So I understood one underlying theme that generally people think that everything will happen in a way that they would have thought about it, or good things will keep happening to them, right? But when you do this, you are actually living your career like a Ludo game, where the dice will decide how many steps you can go forward. Okay, that's not what you want. You want to be more in charge, right? More in charge of your career. So which is where it triggered a thought that why not look at writing something like a GPS. Okay, so just like how the Google map does, right? So when you go 5 kilometers, take a right and take a left. So my book is exactly like this. What it does is it tells you what are the challenges, what are the expectations, what are the motivations that can happen to you when you are at an entry level, when you are at a manager level, and then when you are at a leader level. What things can go wrong, what things can go right, how can you change your attitude, how can you work on your PQ at each of these stages. So just to give you an example, so when you are fresh right out of the college, you go and join, there's hardly any responsibility, hardly any responsibility. You're like, this salary, great, I'm going to spend it all, right? We all do that. And then when you reach your next level, which is the managerial level or the master craftsman level, as I call it, that's when you'll most probably go the family way. You'll get married. Now you are based out of Pune, and this guy is based out of Bangalore. So you're like a long distance couple now. So did you foresee this before? No, it happened. So most people lose the plot because things happen to them. They have not really built that awareness. And I was trying to build that awareness with this book. So all of these events were like, getting pent up within me. I wanted to create, that kind of directions for people. And, suddenly one day I thought that, okay, I have some time now, so let's start writing. So I used to write one page and then I couldn't move forward. And then one person suggested, another author suggested that you keep writing, you don't refine. So we have a tendency to make things perfect, right? So I would write one page, edit it and re-edit it and re-edit it. So I was not moving forward. So he told me that you just write, editing can happen later. And then I suddenly started writing and I completed the book in about 4 months. I completed the book.
Wow.
And then of course editing, proofreading, a lot of things happened, and eventually the book came out in February 2022, this year.
Wow, so this sounds really great. So we've understood what the whole process was for writing the book. I want to know what happened after it. So your book reached the number one position, Amazon's bestseller in the workplace category. So that must have been a very huge thing. And how has that impacted your life now?
Absolutely. So when I started writing the book, I had this premise that in the age of this video on demand and OTT, I mean, who is going to spend time reading a book? I really believed in it. Okay, I never thought that people read books. Only people like us who are like more serious, they are probably the ones who read books. I used to think like that. Okay, but then I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to be an author, so I had to express myself, right? So I wrote this book, and then it got published, and of course I did social media posts and all that. Luckily for me, people believed, and people bought this book. Okay, and it suddenly, one friend of mine sends me this picture that there is this bestseller rank, and my book was steadily moving upward. So as it was moving upward, I was wondering, till how far it will go. because I'm not a known author, right? I don't have any brand or anything. Even if you look my social media, it is just starting to gather momentum. So imagine 1 year back what it would be, right? So not many people knew me. So I was not sure where it is going, but slowly it started climbing. It climbed to from 20s to number 8 position, then from number 8 to number 3 position, and to number 3 to number 1 position. So when I saw this for a minute, I couldn't just believe that, it has happened. And then, my own hypothesis was very pleasantly broken, that people do read books. Okay. But being the bestseller, how it has helped. So first of all, there was a lot of recognition. There was a lot of, branding around it, which happened. I started speaking at various forums. A lot of colleges invited me as guests, etc. And then I also happened to speak at international forums also, in that sense, right? So that is definitely one thing happened. It helped my business also, because with authorship comes authority in that particular area. So I started, my business started improving as well. But I think what really stands out for me, even beyond bestsellers, okay, is how my readers have bonded with the book. So I have got my email ID, so people send me that. But interesting incident I want to narrate. It will take 2 minutes, but very interesting thing. So this book is called Practical Workmanship and Winning: Practical Hacks to Living and Engaging and Fulfilling Corporate Life. Okay. One fine day, I get a message from a school teacher. Okay. And this school teacher is, of course, in one of the elite Delhi schools. Okay. So the school itself runs like a corporate. But I had never imagined that, this book will be picked up by a school author, a school teacher. And she had narrated incident that she's apparently was appearing for her promotion, and she quoted this book, and there are certain things she was trying to convey, etc., etc., and actually she got the promotion. So she was so elated, and she wanted to give all the credit back to me, in a sense that she was saying that, okay, it is because of you and all that. I said, it's not because of me, but because of your own appreciation of what I have written, and that's what made you stand out. But the thing is, these kind of incidents actually tells you that your work was appreciated, what you wrote had meaning, had purpose, and which is why people are finding it meaningful. And that's what makes me feel very happy, more than the bestsellers and the other opportunities I've been getting after that. So yes, I mean, long story short, opportunities have opened up, various different kinds of opportunities, like this one, right? When I'm talking to people like you, connecting with young minds, this definitely I see as an opportunity. So all of this has happened post, this, bestseller thing. Earlier, in a corporate job, I never thought of, doing this. In fact, I can give you in writing, if I would have not quit, I would have not written this book. I just barely didn't had time. But now I understand that, there is no time is a wrong concept. You have to find time.
Sir, having said that, it's all the more a privilege for us to have you on board and for me to interact with you. So you rightly said that there must be a lot of points in the book which has made the audience connect with it so much, and they're giving this love to you and to your book. But what really interests me is the title of the book. It's called Workmanship and Winning. So what was the idea behind it? And you say workmanship like it's a craft, it's a skill. So can you just elaborate on what was the idea behind the title of the book and how you happened to choose this?
Very interesting. So I have had so many interviews, right? I have had interviews with Money Control also, but they have not asked me this question. Okay, I've been probably itching to tell them, but they never asked me this question. So see, workmanship and winning, right? Each word has a purpose, which is why I chose the title. Okay, I didn't do, the author's SEO, SEM for this. This title I chose myself because, I was too naive to start with at that point of time in my author journey. But what I was thinking was, see, work is something that we all have to do, whether job or entrepreneur or whichever way, solopreneur, whichever way you want to put it. So work is definitely something that occupies almost 75% of our waking hours, right? 24 hours out of that, almost 15, 16 hours is where we are, awake and we do things, right? So that's definitely, central to who we are, the work. Workmanship refers to the quality, right? Let's say in the context of the country also, there are so many people, but there is a lack of skill. Even if you go to a simple case of, speaking to a customer service representative, many times, you don't like the experience because the person is not adequately skilled. So workmanship refers to how skilled you are at your work. Okay. And the third part is winning. Winning doesn't come if you just do work and workmanship. Winning takes something different. Leadership is something different. So the three things align with the three phases which I mentioned in the book. Work aligns with the apprentice phase, where you will be judged based on the deliverables. Workmanship is aligned to the master craftsman phase, where how good your delivery is going to be judged. How how skillfully you navigated that. And winning is associated with the leadership phase. So that is where the three names and the three ladders of corporate world.
Wow, so this sounds really interesting. I can't wait to read the book myself. So
I would definitely appreciate a review or thoughts, comments from you.
I'll definitely get back to you once I read the book. And so thank you for answering my question. And I think we've covered a lot in terms of your journey. We went through your corporate journey, your entrepreneurial venture, and your book. So that has really given me a lot of insights about how a person really advances in his or her professional journey. So thank you so much for that. Now that we are, close to the concluding part of this podcast, can you just share more about the professional opportunities in the future? What are the new age career options that students like us and young people in the professional journeys can look forward to?
Very interesting question again. I must say the way you have chosen these questions, and as you speak, you are basically forming them. It's really amazing. You have good skills. Okay, so let me see if I can give you a different perspective on how I want to look at things. Okay. So from a new age career perspective, I think there are two clear trends emerging. Okay. The first one is how companies are hiring. Okay. So back in the US, what people are doing is companies like Google, Facebook, etc. They are saying that, we don't rely on the degrees anymore. Okay. Which college you come from, it is immaterial for us as long as you demonstrate the skills that we need for the job. So you see the shift, right? So there is, no worry now. Even a so-called tier 3 college per student can be on equal level playing field, competing with a so-called tier 1 school, right? So that distinction is going away, and that distinction is moving back to the individual, to the person, that is you. How good you are, it depends on that only. It has not happened immediately, but it will happen in the future for sure. Okay. So that's one clear trend I can see happening. So which is why you need to keep working on your PQ other than your skills. The second thing, which is what I have observed, is again career choices. Okay. So as I see, in the post-COVID era, a lot of people are still doing the 9 to 5 job, but many are actually quite happy in doing a freelancing job, right? They don't want to move out of their place. They want to be working remotely. They don't want to go to office, right? These kind of career choices never existed before. Now people want to do this freelancing kind of things. Companies are also open to that kind of work, right? And of course entrepreneurship is like evergreen. So people will, you will see more and more people, more of the older people are also joining into the bandwagon. So definitely, these three career choices are open. The second one, freelancing, I would call it as a solopreneur. People are trying to experience different things. That career option is also open. Even youngsters are choosing that. So definitely, it's there. But the point is, how do you manage in the new age, right? So fundamentally, whether it is new age, old age, medieval age, it doesn't matter. Certain fundamental principles relating to your work, your workmanship remains fundamental. Okay, they do not change with time. So I will just leave you guys with those 5 things which I feel is very appropriate, for young people to pick up. The first one is invest in yourself to improve. Okay, you keep on working yourself, you improve yourself. So in the book called Atomic Habits, I don't know if you have read, there is this mention that if you improve 1% every day, in 365 days you will be 37% better than what you were, right? And if you don't improve, then you decay, and you become 3% of what you were at the start of the year. So self improvement is extremely important. Focus yourself so that you do things better each and every single day, so that you keep on evolving. The second piece which I want for people to be aware is that you need to add value to in activities that you do. It doesn't matter whether it's a small activity or a large activity or a very impactful activity. Value addition can happen in mundane activities. Just to give you an example, so one of my senior bosses had once asked a junior guy to go and get the prints. So there were like 10 pages of prints, so he just went and got them. So I was looking at him and he looked at me and then he said, see, even in small tasks, how can you add value? I said, what is there to add value? So he said he could have at least stapled it, right? Then I said, he could have stapled it. Then he could have at least asked me whether I want the printouts in single pages or, back to back. He could have asked me that. He could have run a spell check. He could have, checked with me whether I want color prints. So there is so much of value add in a mundane task like printing. So you can imagine how much value add you can do to bigger tasks, right? So that's point number 2. Point number 3 is keep pace with time. Okay. Yesterday was me beating you, okay, and you beating me. It was a competition between you and me. Today and tomorrow, it is about how we can collaborate and do the same job in half the time, how we can together work and bring value. So it is competition no more between you and me. It is a competition which is within us, and the way forward is a collaboration. Fourth part is of always try to be part of the solution. Whenever we are difficult, we face a difficult problem or situation, we always look at the problem, but always try to see if you can bring the solution. Can you be part of the solution rather than part of the problem? It goes a long way. When you imagine the situation, there is this manager and 4 of you, 3 of them coming back to the manager saying, okay, this is not working, that is not working, but you coming back and saying that, okay, these are not working, but here is a way where we can explore if can things work. How much positive impact you will generate with one change in attitude. So always try to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And last but not the least, develop work intelligence. Okay. So whoever said work smart, don't work hard doesn't know. Even working smart requires you to work hard. But what it does is now you are more oriented towards putting your effort to bear results. You are not scattering your effort. Hard work, a substitute is not there. There is no substitute to hard work. But you have to develop that intelligence, that how can all the hard work I do to produce the maximum outcome that I desire. So if you maintain these 5 principles which I talked about, irrespective of whether it is new age career or what will unfold day after tomorrow, we don't know what kind of career options will come. But if your fundamentals are in place, you will not struggle. You will be able to adapt and you will be able to make way for yourself. I think that's what I would like to live with.
Wow, sir, thank you so much for those pieces of advice. I'm sure our audience would have a lot to learn from the same. My personal favorite being adding value to even the mundane tasks every day we do. So thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
sir.
much. Thank you so much. And yeah, all the very best for your episodes and all the very best for your career. Thank you so much for having me today. And it was really a very different experience, I must say. And I'm just waiting for the podcast to come so that I can, hear it.
Definitely, sir. We'll share the podcast as soon as possible. And thank you for being with us today. It was a joy for me to interact with you for the last couple of minutes.
Thank you so much.